Story 1. Am I the jerk? I didn't attend my son's wedding. I instead spent the evening with his ex-wife. Quick backstory. After graduating high school, my son moved 3 states away for college. At 19, he married a girl he met. I tried convincing him to wait because I personally felt he was too immature. They both dropped out and moved back here to his hometown. At 20, they had their first child, a beautiful little girl. 16 months later, my dill gave birth to their second child, a little boy. After the first baby, my wife and I noticed our dill wasn't happy. We both thought it was PPD related. Just after the second arrived, my son and his wife separated. She would bring the kids over for a visit. It was then she began unloading on us. I know there's 2 sides to every story, but considering I know my son, I believed her. I sat my son down numerous times to speak with him regarding his marriage. He refused to take responsibility, blamed her for everything even when I directly pointed out where he was the sole problem. They got into counseling. For a year things were okay on the surface. Our dill filed for divorce. My son 3 days later was on Facebook announcing his new girlfriend. A month later, they were engaged. My son had forced his then-wife to become a permanent Sam at the birth of their first child. She of course had no other family or friends here. She knew no one aside from us. She had nowhere to go with 2 small children. Unbeknownst to our son, my wife and I helped her financially and got her an apartment. Before the divorce was even finalized, we received a wedding invitation. I made it clear to my son I would not be attending and they would not have my blessing. His mother told him she would see to it that I would attend. I stayed consistent in my decision. I also asked him not to bring his fiancée around our house out of respect for the mother of his children. The wedding happened on February 11th. The night before, my wife gave me the finial push. I did not attend. Our daughter also did not attend for the same reasons. My wife picked up our grandkids, got them dressed and attended the wedding. My daughter and I decided to spend the evening with his ex. I couldn't imagine her sitting alone while her kids attended their father's wedding. She was taken aback that I didn't end up attending his wedding. We took her out to distract her mind. I just wanted her to know she'll always be considered family to us. My daughter also made a joke they can drop the in-law status and just be sisters now. She was very tearfully grateful. I realized just how badly she needed our support and specifically on that night. The next morning, my son called to tell me how much of a horrible father I am for not attending his wedding. Few days later, he caught wind that I spent the wedding evening with his ex. He said that was the ultimate form of betrayal, and further myself and his sister would have to earn a relationship with him on his terms only. Story 2. Am I the jerk for taking legal action against my sil for damage she did to my dad's property? My 24F dad is pretty well off and owns multiple properties in both the country I live in as well as back in his home country. Because of this and the fact that my husband and I both have good careers, my sil has always had a snobby attitude towards us and my side of the family and tries to mooch off of us at any chance she gets. When we go out to eat with my husband's side of the family, we're expected to pay. Christmas and birthday side of the family expects good gifts, etc. His sister is currently on her 3rd marriage and has 3 children all under the age of 10. Her and her husband were looking for a place to host their wedding and approached me about using one of my dad's properties to host it. I was very hesitant at first to help her because of the treatment she has given me in the past, but it's my dad's property after all, so I contacted him to ask him about it. He said it's my call, but told me to have them sign some type of agreement stating that if any damage is done to the house, they are liable. They are going to be charged a reasonable fee to use the house. We both agreed on $1,500, which I believe is very reasonable considering this is a massive house. I told Sil and her husband about this. They asked about a family discount. I told them this was a family discount and take it or leave it. They signed the agreement and paid. Fast forward to days after the wedding, I went over to the house. House is a complete mess. Bed sheets are stained, a vase destroyed, alcohol bottles floating in the pool, etc. I contact my dad to tell him. He tells me to access the damage and see how much it is. It was around $1,000 worth of damage. My dad contacts my sil himself and explains to her the damage and what she owes him. She loses her shit and starts going off about how this is bullshit. We're family, she shouldn't even be charged in the first place. We're so well off we can happily afford to pay for the damages. If she gives him that money, they won't be able to afford to go on a honeymoon, etc., etc. She then calls me up to harass me and starts calling me a BTCH who thinks she's too good for everyone and says it's a wedding. What do you expect? Sorry, my people know how to have a good time. My dad gives her 30 days to pay. She was notified about this. 30 days comes and no payment. So my dad get his lawyer to contact Sil explaining how she's being taken to court for not paying. Her and my mill have been contacting my husband non-stop trying to get him to give her the money. He refuses because he agrees that what she did was irresponsible and wrong. I had to block Mill and Sil after they sent me nasty messages and even tried to show up at my house to talk to me. I feel bad that my husband's relationship with his mom and sister is going to be ruined over $1,000. But I feel like what she did was wrong and she wasn't even sorry about it. Edit. I should also add that my Sil and her husband were given a key to the house to use it and lock it up when they were leaving it. The key was returned to me at my house. The next day I went over to the house, which is when I found the damage. So they left the house in the condition for me to see with no care in the world. Story 3. We had to pull the plug on our baby boy. I gave birth super early. I was 23 weeks along. He came out living and initially had no critical issues. When he was 1 week old, they did a brain scan and found out he had a brain bleed and also found out he had a hole in his stomach that was causing air and poop to leak into places in his body it shouldn't be. They transported him to Children's Hospital Co. and there they were able to do a surgery to help his stomach, but they found 2 more brain bleeds. All 3 of his brain bleeds were stage 4. He also had 2 infections, 1 in his stomach and 1 in his lungs. They told us they didn't think he had 48 hours until his bleeds would suffocate his brain. If he did live through it, he would never be able to walk, talk, see, hear, or eat, and he would never be able to breathe by himself. Me and my boyfriend made the decision to pull the plug so he could still feel comfort and wouldn't die alone. He was only 8 days old. It's been 3 days since, and I feel like the worst person to exist. What kind of mother doesn't try to fight harder for her baby? As he was in our arms after they pulled the breathing tube out, he was still kicking and he had tears coming out of his eyes for the first time in his life. It took almost 30 minutes before he left us. He wanted to fight so bad and he was so strong. I just didn't want him to live in pain. I wanted to take all his pain away, and that's the only way I knew how. Holding your child for the first time is supposed to be the happiest moment of your life, but for me it was the worst moment of mine. How do you even recover from your baby dying in your arms, and what kind of mom makes the decision to let that happen? I just want to see him grow up and fall in love. I just want my baby back, and I wish I could take back the horrible decision I made. I know I'm an awful person, so say what you want. I really did and still do love my son more than anyone or anything. Edit. For those of you asking, his name was Ashton after my dad who passed in June. Edit. To thank you all for your love and support and helping me spread Ashton's story. I hope someday to bring more attention to infant and pregnancy loss as someone who has gone through both. You all have showed me that people will hear Ashton's story. Story 4. Am I the jerk for buying my girlfriend's sister a car? About 4 years ago, my girlfriend and her younger sister had a huge falling out. I don't know what about because my girlfriend never went into any specifics, and that was before I even met her, but they haven't spoken to each other since. I've been with my girlfriend for 2 years. About a year ago, her sister reached out to me because she wanted me to persuade my girlfriend into meeting with her because she wanted to reconnect, but when I told my girlfriend, she said she never wants to see her. 2 weeks ago, her sister messaged me again and asked me if she could borrow $2,000 from me because she needed to buy a new car, and she said she'd pay my back monthly. I told her that I can't just borrow her money because I don't know her and I don't know if she's actually gonna use it to buy a car. But I told her that if she found a car for sale she wants, I can go and see it with her and pay for it. So a couple days ago I met up with her and I paid just over $2,000 for a car. This was the first that I actually met her in person. I told her she could just pay me back whenever. I honestly just felt a bit sorry for her. I could tell she genuinely wants to reconnect with my girlfriend, but she just refuses. Her sister also didn't tell me any specifics about their falling out, but that it had to do with my girlfriend's old boyfriend and how my girlfriend basically accused her of doing something she didn't do. I didn't press her for anything specific because I could tell she didn't want to talk about it. Afterwards, I told my girlfriend about it and she got furious at me. She said I shouldn't have bought her a car and she claims I betrayed her trust by going behind her back. We argued about it for a while and well, since then she barely speaks to me. But I honestly don't think I did anything wrong, especially since we don't share finances, so I spent my own money and not hers. So am I the jerk? I don't know if ages are relevant here, but I'm 27, my girlfriend is 25, and her sister is 19.